You ever feel like your mind is running on old, buggy software? The kind that's constantly crashing with worry? Well, today, we're going to install a new operating system. It's based on Dale Carnegie's timeless wisdom, and it's designed to replace all that worry with focused, steady action. This is about taking back control of your own mind.
And this right here, this is the core of our new system. This simple three-part philosophy is really the foundation for everything we're about to build. It's about having a clear plan for dealing with problems that just strips them of their power. Just look at those keywords: clarity, action, and acceptance. Those are going to be our main tools.
So here's a really crucial point. Worry isn't some external force that just attacks you. Carnegie argues it's an internal habit. It's a mental loop that we've actually trained ourselves to run. And just like any habit, it can be understood, it can be interrupted, and it can be replaced with a much better, more productive one. All right, here's the installation guide for our new mental OS. First, we'll get a handle on the worry habit itself. Then, we'll build some foundational practices for focus, introduce an emergency protocol for when things get rough, and outline a standard procedure for problem solving. After that, we'll get into proactive maintenance, and finally, create a daily practice for peace. So, what is this system, really? Well, it's not a bunch of abstract theories. Think of it more like a collection of successful, time-tested recipes. These are practical habits designed to methodically replace that destructive habit of worry with the constructive habit of focused, decisive action. Let's start with Module 1, Understanding the Enemy. Carnegie's fundamental insight is that worry doesn't actually come from our problems. No, it comes from somewhere else entirely. This is such a powerful diagnosis of our suffering. The first and honestly often the worst round of pain happens entirely in our heads. It's our undisciplined imagination, just running wild with these vague fears, that causes the real damage, long before reality ever even gets a chance to show up. So how do we discipline that imagination? Well, we start with what might be the single most powerful principle in the entire system, creating a space for focus by sealing off the day. This quote inspired one of the most famous physicians of his time, a man named Sir William Osler, to develop a system for living without worry. And the idea is simple but so profound. Our real power only exists in this present moment. Osler imagined life as this great ship. You press a button and you shut this huge iron door on the past, all the dead yesterdays. Then you press another button and you drop this metal curtain on the future, the unborn tomorrows. And this leaves you safe and focused in what he called a daytime compartment, where you can do today's work with all of your energy. Okay, but what happens when some huge, overwhelming worry just breaks through our defenses? For that, our operating system needs an emergency protocol, a kind of magic formula for those moments of acute panic. We've all been there, right? That feeling when a worry is so big, it just freezes you, and you literally can't think straight. What do you do in that exact moment? This is the three-step formula from an engineer named Willis H. Carrier. First, you define the absolute worst realistic outcome. This kills that vague, undefined fear. Second, you mentally accept it. This releases a huge amount of trapped energy. Finally, with a calm mind, you can devote all that freed-up energy to improving upon the worst-case scenario you've already accepted. Now, let's see how this builds into our standard operating procedure for any problem that comes our way, big or small. This is the methodical, day-to-day process for thinking clearly, even when you're under pressure. Dean Hawkes of Columbia University said that confusion is the #1 cause of worry. We try to make decisions in this fog of incomplete information, and our minds just spin and spin uselessly. The antidote to this confusion, and therefore to worry, is a dose of cold, hard facts. The procedure is pretty simple and logical. First, get the facts, not just the ones that confirm your fears. Second, analyze them. Third, make a decision. And fourth, and this is critical, act on that decision immediately. The moment you act, you crowd out the worry. The mental tension just drops because the uncertainty is finally gone. Now we're going to shift from reactive tactics to proactive maintenance. How can we build a mental environment where worry just has a hard time even taking root? Well, it starts with managing our energy. Now, here's a fascinating scientific finding. The brain itself doesn't really get fatigued from pure thinking. What truly exhausts us are the emotional states we bring to our work.
Things like boredom, resentment, tension, and especially worry. Fatigue is so often an emotional problem, not a mental one.
This little chart illustrates a key difference. Good thinking is productive. It analyzes causes and it leads to a logical plan. Bad thinking, which is really just another name for worry, is destructive. It creates tension and it leads absolutely nowhere. This is a great diagnostic tool to use on your own thoughts.
And here's the physical component. A Dr. Edmund Jacobson discovered that the mental state of worry and the physical state of deep relaxation are mutually exclusive. They simply cannot exist in the body at the same time. This is why resting before you get tired is such a powerful anti-worry strategy.
Okay, we've installed all the core components of our new operating system. Now, let's put this all together into a simple, actionable daily routine you can start using the moment this is over. This is how you make it real. Today, I want you to pick one nagging worry and just run it through that 3-step magic formula. Then schedule 2 5-minute breaks just to relax your body. Put a timer on your phone, and before bed, write down 3 things that went well. These small, consistent actions are what actually rewire the brain for peace. And that really is the final truth of this entire philosophy. Mental peace and control, they aren't things you're born with or without. They're skills. A peaceful mind is the result of deliberate, consistent training, just like any other skill that you value. So, as we close out, there's really only one question that matters. You have the operating system, you have the first micro steps. Which single habit will you install today to begin reclaiming your calm?